Dating in Miami has been such a disappointing roller coaster ride that has tested my self-worth time and time again. And I'm here to share with you some insights on how to really make it past. Look, I'm not the biggest dater. I'm not a serial dater. I don't go out on dates every week. In fact, my relationship with dating, if you could call it that way in a manner of speaking, is kind of unique in the sense that I don't consider myself awkward. I don't consider myself scared to talk to women. I don't consider myself socially uncalibrated. At the same time, I don't consider myself the life of the party or like a hyper charismatic person that can strike up and engage in conversation with just about anyone. I also don't consider myself as a man who is so attractive and charismatic and humorous and high status and rich that any woman will fall for me, right? So I think there's a good deal of reality there, and then there's also some distorted self-image that I have yet to work through in what I just said. But with that said, dating for me has always been a delayed gratification game where well, first of all, I should say this. This is after coming off a 11-year relationship that was the most transformative, decade-long period that completely destroyed me dozens of times over, every aspect of me. And thankfully, I rebuilt myself after that process. And I'm still rebuilding myself to some extent. You don't just rebuild after a decade plus of that in just 1 or 2 years. And that relationship ended in, if I'm not mistaken, October 2024. So, yeah, it hasn't been that long. It has, but it doesn't really feel like it's been that long. At the same time, I've shifted so many times throughout that period that I can say that I'm nowhere near the person that I was when I left that relationship. So dating in Miami after that has been a process of, well, first of all, I've noticed that women here have an abundance of options, and this is not just particular to Miami. This is a general rule. Women usually have much more optionality than men, even when it comes to very average looking women. We'll say average in a manner of speaking, right? Men, on the other hand, don't always explore that level of optionality. So one thing I've noticed is that acting like a player, acting like a very flirty, nonchalant, mildly avoidant man who's lighthearted and humorous and acts like he doesn't even really give a fuck about the woman that he's talking to, that drives women crazy in the best way. At least the women I've come across. That probably doesn't apply to every woman. But the women I've come across, they love that shit. They eat it up. They love it. And it got me thinking, wow. So if I act like I'm out here just messing around, I'm more likely to get a woman than if I just act like my regular self, which is quite reserved, quiet, genuine, not shy at communicating. So it got me reflecting in my own life where I'm like, well then why do I keep attracting those types of women? And clearly it's because of me, right? I'm not running away from that. It's a reflection of me and what I have yet to deal with. And by the way, it's 3 a.m. in Miami right now. So this is quite the time to be making this type of video. But I took a huge nap earlier yesterday evening, so I'm wide awake right now. And I can say this wholeheartedly. If you're not careful with what you get attached to and how you attach in Miami, it will destroy you. You know, for a long time, and up until very recently, I was the type of man that was ashamed of the fact that I bond deeply. Whether fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not the type of man that can just fuck someone and then not even care about them, not even call them. I don't even know their name. They could die the next day. It doesn't even matter to me, right? I'm not that type of guy. I've always been the guy, and maybe this has to do with the fact that the only real relationship I had was an 11-year insanely transformative relationship. So I'm sure that has something to do with it, right? But for the most part, when I meet guys, you know, other men, right, and we get to talking, they always give me the impression that they can just, you know, they have a roster. They could fuck here, fuck there, fuck so-and-so. It's not that big of a deal. It's just fucking. It's no, you know, it's whatever. It's whatever. When, to me, sex is... Whoa. Give me a sec. Let me try to... Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Sex has always been a very transformative and deeply intimate experience. And there's no way that I can see myself sharing in that deep of an intimate experience with someone and then like the next day just be like, all right, well, see you when I see you. Bye forever. Like, I don't even care. You know, and part of me feels like, wow, does that make me feminine? And I'll tell you why. Because not only because men are usually known for not attaching emotions to sex, but with the women that I've come across way more women who have way more sexual experience than me, which of course makes the sex fantastic, right? The sex is mind-blowing, great. But they're also the type of women who can detach super quickly, very easily. At least when it comes to what I can perceive from them. Now, what they go through internally, I'm not sure. So that's when I'm like, wow. And it's not like I can just share from experience. It's not like I'm getting cues from these women that they're not enjoying the sex, right? Because more often than not, we have sex multiple times before the connection ends. So I don't think that would happen if the sex was terrible. And I'm not saying that to Brad. I'm just saying that to give context. Because I know that for some people, it may just be like, oh, well, clearly the sex wasn't that good. That's why she didn't really fuck with you. And I'm choosing to exclude details, right? Because that's just a bit too personal. I don't really like to get personal in that way when it comes to sex, right? Which already tells you that I view sex in a certain way, right? But I keep coming across women who they're basically like how men are expected to be. You know, very charismatic, very great conversationalists, very heavy flirts. And then once they get the sex, maybe get it a few times, from there, they don't care what happens. And it's like, wow. That's been heavy to deal with for me. And that also has taught me that, hey, the shame around me being a man who bonds deeply, especially with sex, it shouldn't be something I should hold on to. That's one. And two, I shouldn't try to decondition myself away from that, right? Because I don't have a lot of sexual experience. At least I don't consider myself to have a bunch of sexual experience. I haven't had many sexual partners. And I'm intentional about that, right? If I did want to optimize for just sexual partners, believe me, I could do so. I'm a fairly attractive man. I hold great conversation. I'm not nervous around women. I'm very intelligent. I have a lot going for myself. So it's not like, oh, I wouldn't be able to. You see who you see right now in the camera. So to me, I tried to decondition myself away from that because I'm like, dang, well, what if something's wrong with me? Especially growing up without a father. Like I just spoke with one of my friends, and she's up at all hours of the night. And yes, we're just friends. So she's up at all hours of the night, and I called her, kind of explained this situation that I was in with some woman, and you know, we had a good talk, and she basically was like, well, because you didn't grow up without a father. She was kind of hinting at it without really saying it, but I get what she meant. Maybe she thought I would be offended, and I'm not. But she was probably like, hey, you're probably feminized in that way because you didn't grow up without a father, therefore you attach too much emotion to sex when really it's just sex. And it's like, you know what? I'm not ashamed of me bonding deeply when it comes to having sex. If anything, I feel like that's the way it should be. Now, I know that there's people out there who they literally can't. They could have sex with as many people and they don't care. They don't care. They would need to teach themselves how to care about someone after sex. If anything, I care too much, and like I said, it's been a source of great frustration to me. And I'm really just sharing this with you. If there's any men out there, I mean, women too, you may be going through a similar experience just on your end, right, of the spectrum. But if there's any people in general who feel like, maybe relationships is not it for me, or maybe I just need to like chill on like the being intimate with people, this is probably your confirmation, you know, because I think I'm resolving myself to being like, look, no matter how good a connection is, I've been through the whole hot and heavy start of a connection enough times, I won't say a bunch of times, but enough times to get me to understand, hey, a connection that starts hot and heavy is most likely just going to end as quickly as it came. You know? So don't be ashamed of that. You know, and I'm fighting myself right now because I feel slightly corny about me telling you, hey, it's okay to bond deeply, especially as a man, and especially within the sexual context. I feel almost like weird, like lame about it. When I feel like, but when I examine that, it's like, nah, that's your previous conditioning that you're shedding, right? You're shedding the programming of what men are supposed to be and what women are supposed to be. And I'm not saying I'm anti-gender roles or anything like that. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm just saying within the context of a sexual relationship, I don't necessarily feel like men would be wise to have a bunch of sexual experience that leads to basically nowhere, leads to no commitment. And I feel like if you're not that type of guy and you do bond deeply, well, then I don't feel like you should be ashamed, and you certainly shouldn't try to decondition yourself from it. I can say the past couple of sexual encounters I've had have been me trying to be like, fuck it. Like, I'm a guy, I should be okay. I should just keep it player, right? I should just keep it player and I'll be good. It's just sex. Every single time, I'm talking every single time, I catch feelings. So I think I would just need to start warning these women, yo, before we do something, I'ma catch feelings. So if this is not that, let's not even go there. And personally, I'm not afraid to turn down pussy. I've done it before. I'm not so thirsty that like I can pass up on a sexual encounter. Especially since if the connections go like that, then it seems like the sexual encounter is happening just for its own sake. And I've had enough of for its own sake type encounters to be like, you know what, this doesn't really lead anywhere and it doesn't serve me. I experienced what I needed to experience, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but to what end? Why am I involving myself so deeply? So I just came to share that with you. Let me know if you resonate.